Welcome, everybody.
How's it going, Pablo?
It's going great. It's summertime here in Southern California and in most of the North American. I don't even know what I'm saying.
There's a geography test coming.
No,
Where is it summer?
I was going the wrong way. I was going south and not to South America. But we can talk about that in this episode because this episode is about travel and perspective.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm happy already.
We're kind of off the reservation here because it is summer. So New Teacher Talk is still, it's not just about travel. We're still going to loosely tie it back into teaching and learning and education. But we want to talk about travel because we're about to head off on our own little excursions here and there. And we hope that you're enjoying, if you are in education, we hope that you're enjoying your summer vacay.
Recharge those batteries and get a new
If
perspective.
you've started one, maybe you haven't quite started, but you'll be there in no time.
I know there's some people out there still a week or two away. But it's getting close.
Let's start with a little quote. I think we challenged each other to each... For each of us to look up a quote.
Yes.
And you want to share yours first?
Sure. So my quote is by the novelist Henry Miller. And the quote is, "One's destination is never a place, but always a new way of seeing things." Which ties into the idea of travel providing perspective.
Oh, I like that. Wow, you did much better than I.
No. But I am looking forward to, I have a list of places I've traveled to that we may talk about. And I think the challenge for me is to relate what's the new way of seeing things that I got from that trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
What's your quote?
So my quote is from author unknown, or at least there was no author when I found it. However, better to see something once than to hear about it 1,000 times.
Ooh.
And for me, that is, if we think about our students in the classroom, we read a lot of stories, or we even may watch videos of these things. We even are into an age where we have virtual reality, so we can actually be there. But there's nothing, absolutely nothing that beats being there in person.
Yeah.
And so I really value the time that I have when I actually visit the places that I either discover or that I'm intentional about visiting.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's
I like
that. Kind of
that actually, when it says better see something once than hear about it 1,000 times, I think of a textbook. I mean, every textbook is just relaying like a verbal message about something, but it's not the actual experience.
Sure.
No matter how much you love your textbooks, please know that it's not the real deal.
So about growing up, how about as a youngster? Did you travel much?
I would say not especially, but we did have my parents. My parents both lived in Nebraska, so we went to Nebraska during the summer about every other year. And then I think one time we went in the winter, like Christmas break. So so those trips, and then it's just a whole different way of life. Okay. Like my dad's family. He grew up in a town of 200. Actually, he grew up on a farm a mile outside of this town. It's hard to call it a town. Village is actually maybe. And then my mom lived on the east side of Nebraska, and they Nebraska City, so like 6,000 people in her town.
You know what I was thinking was Arkansas, but Darlene, your wife, she has family in Arkansas. Okay. Have you visited?
And we keep talking about a road trip to Arkansas. Okay. So that's on the books. Yeah. In theory.
Arkansas is a cool place.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
So,
how about you? Where'd you go growing up?
I have cousins in South Carolina, and so we visited there a few times when I was younger.
Okay, road trip or?
Usually we would drive.
Yeah. We always drove.
No, we didn't have any money for plane tickets. No.
Yeah.
So we drove, and I always found there was one time that was super memorable, and this was just with my dad and his brother and my cousin.
Okay.
I think most of my dad's brothers were mechanics. Mm-hmm. He has like eight brothers and 2 sisters, something like that.
Yeah.
And about, I want to say 5 to 6 of them were mechanics, and here in Southern California initially. So anyways, that being said, my uncle who lived in South Carolina, I think bought a car, needed to deliver it, and then we drove him back. Oh, and then we stayed a little bit, and then we came back eventually. But one of the best times was just, I remember stopping, and they drove it's about without stopping per se. It's about a 48-hour trip.
Yeah.
3 to 5 days if you're taking your time a little bit.
Yeah.
But they just switched off driving.
Yeah.
We did stop at whether it be for gas or just for at a little rest stop.
Yeah.
But I remember playing for a couple hours because they were getting just maybe an hour's worth of sleep.
Yeah.
This Pac-Man game.
What?
And it just kept giving and giving. You just hit the front, and those are that's what I remember from the trip.
So you're like in a rest stop? Or
rest stop. Go to the restaurant. I was playing a video game at probably like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm probably
crazy.
8, 9 years old, something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Times have changed for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, so did a lot of that, and I guess we'll go. When I was 16, I visited Chile. I was born in Chile, but came over to the States when I was about 3.5, 4 years old.
Yeah.
And went through all my schooling here in the States. But
that sounds like a dramatic perspective shift. Like if you haven't been there since you're 4, I would think you wouldn't remember much.
Oh, I don't.
So as a teenager going back, what did you notice? Or
so
what stood
I was
out?
also in a bad state of mind. It was during the winter, and I played basketball for our school, and I just secured a starting position on my sophomore team, I believe. Yeah. And I didn't want to give that up. I worked hard
Jersey
to
number
be named.
12.
Yeah, you got it. To be named a starter. So that being said, I didn't want to go on this trip. And how shallow of me.
It's tough though.
So as a kid, that's your world.
It's your world.
Your socials
peers,
back then.
Sports.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So you didn't want to go, but then once you got there, did you loosen up and enjoy it?
I did because I was there, but I was still always a little on edge. But I did. Get out into the city. I rode the buses, and what an experience that is, because Valparaiso, where my family's from, is built on a hill side. So downtown is actually down below.
Wow. Okay.
So downtown. That's a real downtown. And to get back up, you have to walk, but it's miles and upon miles. So you're taking buses or taxis.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any lines in the road.
Yeah.
Like you don't know which cars and what. There's no lanes.
Really, just
the way
free
I
for
felt.
all.
I felt that was because everybody's just all over the place, and that was an experience. And I went to go see a movie, and I was bored. And like, let me get out into town.
Yeah.
They told me how to take the bus. I got on.
Were
there.
you by yourself?
I was proud of myself, and I got down there. And I'm like, all right, let's just see Ghostbusters. And I thought it was going to be in Spanish. And the odd thing is that even though my parents spoke to me in Spanish, I spoke much more English than I did Spanish, even though I did speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better over the course of time. But I was able to watch Ghostbusters, and they had it in
subtitles?
Subtitles, where I was able to listen to it, so I didn't have to read it, which was great. It's like audiobooks.
You're like,
so anyways, that was a great memory, but it was good to see my grandfather before he passed, and my grandmother had already passed. So those were, but traditions wise, bread is eaten a lot. Not that it's not here in the States, but that's just a thing. Like you wake up and you go to the bakery to get freshly made bread, and boy, do you eat bread, a lot of bread.
A lot of bread.
Came back a little heavier. A little bit. Oh, yeah.
You had to run it off on the basketball court.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
Tell me, in that like day and age, no social media, no whatever, probably just telephone, that was it. Do you think that changed the nature of the trip? Or if you had like a smartphone and Instagram and you were connected to people back home, do you think that would have changed the nature of the trip or the experience?
I think it would have been much more memorable. Memories that, because a lot of the time, especially when I was younger, you appreciate, and I've heard a lot of people say this, why don't you just put that thing down, cell phone or camera, and appreciate the moment that you're in,
Stay
which
in
is
the moment.
Great.
Yeah.
But now I don't remember many of those moments, and I'm sure they were fine when I was there, but you would want to reach out a connection. Like some type of connector, or just for myself to reach back, even if it was digital files that I had somewhere, or even if it was the old film strips, I could just thumb through them. I don't have any of that. I don't have pictures with my grandfather or anything.
I remember my dad always had a camera on these trips, and he always made it a point of, and he's not in most of the photos.
Sure.
But we have pictures of us and the grandparents and us at the Grand Canyon. And like a lot of my memories are the pictures that I remember. I actually don't remember being in those places. It's more how he framed the picture.
Sure.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he was, I'm almost going to say dedicated. Like he made sure he had a camera and captured those moments. So we had like albums that my mom put together. But you know, when you're 16 or whatever, and you look back and you're like, oh, this is a trip we took 10 years ago. And you see yourself at 6 in Nebraska on the farm riding a horse. I don't really remember that, but then that picture is like powerful.
Right.
But I think there is some thing to be said about like staying in the moment. Like I just enjoyed that as a kid. I didn't have to have a phone or a camera. Although I later, when I was a freshman in high school, I bought a camera right before a trip that we took to Denver for it was like a church youth conference or something like that. And I bought this Pentax 35 millimeter, saved up my lawn mowing money. And, you know, we stopped at the Grand Canyon. I took about 200 pictures of the same perspective, the same frame. Then you get developed later and you're like, these are all the same. You get that film developed. You're like, I'm not a genius. Yeah. But I remember the camera being important to me when traveling, you know, and I don't know if I kind of learned that from my dad, but I was trying to do landscapes and more artistic things. But yeah, I feel like that's part of traveling is like, what are you committing to remember? Like, what are you trying to get out of it? For me, landscapes, like it's beautiful. Like I just was fascinated when you would drive out of California. You could almost tell when you cross the state boundary because the landscape. I don't know if they drew up Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico. Like you cross in, you're like, oh, it's red rocks. We're in Arizona or whatever.
Right.
So just part of that awareness of topography and geography that's something that stuck with me. I think I was less tuned into people. Like I didn't really notice, and maybe it's because I didn't go to the South or I didn't go to the New York. Like I just didn't notice those cultural changes. Although when we get together with cousins in Nebraska, they would always ask like about the trends in California. Sure. And we were like, yeah, that was popular a year ago.
That's interesting.
Yeah, California was just kind of ahead somehow. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And you're right though, with social media these days, people might not, at least they'll gain some perspective based on what they see on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or what have you. But very cool. So at 19, I went to Australia. Okay. That was cool, but
in what context? By yourself? Family?
So good question. It was with my cousin. Okay. So I was 19, he was 21. Flew over for about I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks to visit my uncle. My uncle lived in my mom's side, lived in Australia. Wow. So he left Chile and I think he met his wife, who is also from Chile, but met her in Australia. And we just decided, hey, we have an uncle in Australia. Yeah. Let's go. We just need a plane ticket. And he was going to take care of the rest, like show us around. He found like the little cabanas and places where we could actually stay. And, it was great. It was a great trip. But I remember, again, visiting a lot of the hot spots, Canberra and places like this. But, again, I'm 19. My head space is somewhere different, being immature or what have you. But, like, we went and cruised the Sydney Harbor, saw the Opera House. Yeah. That's cool. No, it's cooler than that. Again, I wish I was into photography more than I back then than I am now. Yeah. But I felt like, did I really appreciate Sydney and Australia for what it was? And the answer is probably not. But there was just cool moments with family. That I do remember.
So that's interesting. Right? Like, do you think? So is it not valuable to go at 19? If when you go 20 years later, like with more experience, more wisdom, more different perspective, should you wait because you're not going to appreciate the same?
I don't think so. I'm going to go back to my quote. It's better to see something once, and if the opportunity's there, than to hear about it 1,000 times. At least I can gain perspective. I was there, and I can reflect at least back on that. If I never visit again, I know that I've done it once. Yeah. and I can use that, as perspective and as experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one of the key trips for me was not with family. Was our church used to do these summer trips, and one time we went, or a couple summers we went river rafting.
Nice.
So some camping,
Yeah.
river rafting, and just the time away, time with nature. And I think it was just that break from routine. And it wasn't like the previous years we gone to like a conference. I mean, it was like you rafted and you ate and you slept and maybe you like sang around the campfire, but it was very it had like, I mean, it was a church trip, and I was just gonna say it was like spiritual in nature, but it was more than just because it was church. It was like that freedom and relaxation that was and then the river guides they're just like a whole different tribe. I mean, like they're just like woods men and women, and they're just got their their Teva sandals on, and they're just guiding the river and like talking about the power of the sun, and it was like a whole different type of person to be around, and it was really good, really good.
No, and I think this whole episode is about how we as educators can use travel as both a teacher or a model for teaching in terms of gaining experience and how you can relay those experiences back onto your students or even staff or what have you, depending on where you are in education. It just it's kind of cliche, but broadens your horizons.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting, like one of the connections I just made is, let's say you go to Australia, how are you able to share that experience with me? Well, that's part of that's communication, which is teaching.
Right.
So just even sharing a significant experience and how well you're able to do that relates to pedagogy and instruction. So that's interesting. Yeah. Huh. I like that.
So what other types of travel have you done?
So we had those kind of family trips, church trips. And then I think the first big one, or first couple, like after as an adult, we went to New Orleans. But the big one for me was going to the UK. So it was my first international trip, I think. And I remember we went 2 years in a row. And one time we stayed in London for a week. And then the next time we went kind of to Bath and then up to, I'm going to forget the name, somewhere up north, York, then down to Nottingham. So what I'm gonna remember it. My point is, I visited a professor, somebody who had been in my master's program at UC Irvine. He was a visiting professor during the summer. It was a summer master's program for teachers. Highly recommend it. That was great. But just connecting with him, being over there, and then, believe it or not, I met my grandmother's pen pal from World War II era.
Whoa.
So it was actually her daughter. So my grandmother's pen pal's daughter, because her pen pal had passed away. So we actually connected with her and visited. And so it's interesting to be in I don't know, it's weird to say England is a foreign country because, I mean, I'm not from there, but a lot of the culture, the language definitely is pretty navigable. But staying with people and being with people who are comfortable there, and you just feel a different connection than, even though you're still a tourist and it's still a trip, you just feel more connected. So I don't know how to explain that, but there's a certain, maybe they show you a different slice of the country or the place. Because like if we were on our own, we would go to like the big sites, but we were staying with them, so we went to the middle of town, went to the market, and had some. And actually, because of these connections, we went to different parts of the country that we wouldn't have gone. So we saw a more rural side of England. So that was really good. And then just the warmth, the people were happy to see you. Having somebody visit from another country, we felt loved, and it was awesome. Yeah, I would highly recommend. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but try to connect with somebody. If you're going to a country, if there's somebody you know's over there, try to connect with them.
No, I think that's great advice. In fact, when I visited Hawaii, it's not across country, but
it's far.
Yeah, it's far from. But we actually reached out to a local tour guide.
Okay.
So they're not part of a big company or anything.
Okay.
It was just one person.
Nice.
Found them through a pamphlet. I think somebody suggested them, and they're they grew up on the island and were able to show us a lot of the things on a personal level on how they grew up there and how they see the island and through their eyes and through their experiences. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. What other types of trips have you been on?
So some of my favorite trips have been here in the States because it's hard to RV outside of the state, meaning taking your own RV. Obviously, you can probably rent RVs in other places.
Right.
But I've cross country probably 4 times now. East Coast, West Coast. But it hasn't always been about the locations that we're going to. It's just been about
the journey,
and just learning with my family and really bonding. Yeah. And I think that's what you do.
Pace, right? In an RV, and not that I haven't been on an RV trip.
There is a different pace because you're not going, let's say, from the car to a hotel.
Right.
It's just that you're able to experience. Well, you're able to move about the cabin if you would.
You're taking that hub with you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just lost my thought, but
sorry about that.
No. I was gonna relate it back to just some learning, but anyways, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you said you're learning, spending time as a family, and connecting that way instead of going from the car to the hotel.
I'm not bringing it back, but thank you for trying. But I do have a second thought. Typically, when we visit different locations around the world or just outside of your city or wherever you're traveling to, we typically try to secure some type of tour or a way to learn.
Yeah. Right,
about that area or that community or that location or what have you. Outside of, doing activities, whether you're snowboarding or you're jet skiing or parasailing, whatever, those are probably not learned experiences unless they're your first time, but they're more for fun. But when you're going on those tours to learn about the town, the city, people in the town, specific to that, I think those are pretty valuable. Like, I think we always want to learn and we're reaching out. So that's naturally when you go on vacation, you're actually going to explore somebody else's town environment. And I think that's important when you get back to, and I remember now, but
go for it.
I just want to finish this off. I think that's important that we bring that back, however we were being taught, I guess, because we're learning. I think you should probably emote that to your students back in some way, shape, or form. What intrigued you about that tour? Because most of the time they're just talking, right? And that's lecture style. But why in that environment? Maybe because you're just very relaxed.
Or you're seeing something,
right? How do we translate that back to the classroom? How do we make students relax and just enjoy the ride as well?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like, you do have good tour guides and not so good tour guides, and what is it that they can convey or communicate that really sparks your imagination or enjoyment? Yeah.
So, and my quick thought was that when you're bonding with your family, like in the RV, how do you bond? So that's a long trip. We do 3 to 4 week trips, right? And we'd go visit family along the way. So we wouldn't 100% stay in the RV. We'd stay in families' homes, or if not, we'd stay in RV in their carport or what have you. But over the course of that period of time, think about that experience that you have with your family, because it's a different experience. How can you relay that back into the classroom? Because you're spending a whole year, right? Guiding your students. Teaching them, allowing them to learn. How can you take those experiences? Just I think those are the loose connections that we're trying to make here today. Even though this is a little fun, just kind of reminiscing about where we've been and where we want to go. But I think it's all valuable because it's all about learning. Everything we do.
I do think there's certain educational experiences where, like, a trip has the planning, the beginning, the middle, the end, whatever the high point. And you definitely know, like, for example, like my wife and I, we went to Africa about 8 years ago, visited Uganda. We spent some time in schools there working with teachers. And there's a lot of planning, and actually fundraising was part of that planning. But so there's the travel there, and then there's the relationships. You're meeting people, you're starting to work with them. But that whole journey, like, we were adults, so we were aware of that arc, and you're aware of we're going into the unknown, and how are we going to process what we experience. And I think our classrooms are like that. We have been through it. Our students may not have been through 6th grade or 9th grade before.
Right.
Some of them may repeat. But then how do we set up that journey as a place that's interesting and intriguing? And, I tend to think of the competition of, like, the competitive season of speech and debate. That was very concrete. You have students who are just getting their feet under them in terms of competition, then learning a piece, then competing the first time, and on through to, like, league finals, right? So that's a definite arc, and, like, if they do well and if they advance, so, like, that has its own innate, like, narrative arc. But the classroom is, maybe if we don't supply it, it just seems like day in, day out, it's a grind. Finals, not the most memorable milestone ever.
Avoid the mundane.
So you got to build that story for the students.
Hey, last segment.
If
you, I might put you on the spot here, but if you could go get on a plane today, where would you go and why? Do you know where you're going?
I would say Italy.
Ooh,
my wife and I have talked about it for years. And
my daughter Brisa leaves in 2 days.
I'm so excited for her.
Good for her. I was going, but
Yeah, so that's been a place that we've talked about going to, and kind of like a romantic holiday. What about you?
Nice. Back to Chile.
Okay.
But specifically, I've been watching a lot of YouTube and Patagonia in Chile, Argentina.
Wow,
there.
Nice.
I need to take my camera and I need to go do
Document.
that. Yes,
that'd
go
be beautiful.
do that. Yes, I should probably say I want to take the family and all the right stuff, but I selfishly want to go to Patagonia.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Love it.
So good show. I mean, this was a unique show for us.
Different.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
hey, if you're following us on iTunes, if you would not mind heading over and just giving us a 5-star review, hopefully we've earned that from you, and give us your thoughts and how we can do better. But we definitely want to reach out and connect with you. But the other thing is, if you're you want to watch this beautifulness that's happening here, head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to have you there and comment there too. So,
and in this episode, you can see Pablo in a baseball cap, which doesn't always happen.
It's summer. Anyways, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you for joining.
Parting words of wisdom.
I think it's just make the time to travel. Like, set a goal and say, I'm going to go somewhere, and you'll learn from it.
Well said. I got to go.
Yep. All right.
See ya. Peace. Happy trails.